MDOT presents the Extra Mile Podcast.
Welcome into another edition of the Extra Mile Podcast presented by the Mississippi Department of Transportation. I'm Paul Catul, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Will Krapp. Today we've got three. I think we set the Extra Mile Podcast world record with three guests, three very special guests, and they are here to help us recap Winter Storm Fern. And we have three district engineers, and they had their areas probably more affected than the others. So let's start and introduce everybody. Matt Dunn, District 1 Engineer Matt Dunn right here. We've got District 2 Engineer Brian Childs, and then we've got District 3 Engineer Andy McNair. And gentlemen, first of all, if y'all can go down the line and just tell me how long you've been at MDOT.
Yeah, Paul, I've been with MDOT 28 years this January, so it's been a good ride. A lot of exciting times working for MDOT.
I've been around about 24 years, so with MDOT.
And I've been here 35. I started in Bridge Division in 1990 and then did a long stint in traffic engineering, and I'm in my third year now in District 3 in Kansas City.
Wow. So we're coming up on 100 years, nearly a century of experience at DOT. And so, yes, so we've heard this word thrown around a lot, and we're waiting for some precedented events, but this was an unprecedented generational winter storm. So Matt, let's start with you. What made this Winter Storm Fern so different than other winter events that we've had in recent years, or even, going decades back?
Yeah, so I've heard the word generational a lot when talking about this storm. And what makes it a generational event for us is, in District 1, we've had lots of winter events, probably yearly, where it'd be snow, sleet, sometimes freezing rain. But this one was different because it was a widespread freezing rain event with multiple inches of ice. But what made it unusual and unique for us is we have the ability to treat in the roads and to plow the roads. But when we have a lot of employees that had down power lines, down trees, lost power, lost water, so it became a human factor in that. So not only were we not able to get out there and perform like we normally do, because we have a lot of employees that were affected with the down trees, power lines, and just couldn't get around on the highways like we normally do. Usual events, we get out, we plow, we treat the roads right away. But with this event, we couldn't get out because trees were blocking our way, power lines in the way. And so that's what made it unique. Was it was just such a widespread devastation that we had to have multiple things we had to do to be able to perform the job of getting the roads cleared.
Yeah. No, I mean, again, as you said, all those things definitely took place. Let's look at even just a little bit back before it gets here. We're having weekly meetings, I think even a week in advance or more of the storm. We're starting prep conversations. Brian, if you would, talk a little bit about all the efforts that did go into the pre-treatment and the things that we did to get ready.
Right, we held weekly meetings there leading up to the event, and got to where they were daily meetings. National Weather Service was warning us, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. We pre-treated like we normally would everything. I mean, we got all our 4 lanes treated, all our northern half of our district pre-treated. So all of our 4 lanes, except for the exception of 82, we only got 1 lane treated on it on the outside lane, but we got all 4 lanes on all our 4 lanes treated with a pre-treatment. But it can only go so far. I mean, when the temperatures get down in the single digits like they did, it's basically starts losing its effectiveness at that point. So,
And we just have, I mean, even, all of our pre-treatment efforts are going on. And at the same time, I think we're balancing doing the pre-treatment with the incoming rain too, to not wash off what we're dealing with. I think one other thing to add to the whole conversation is a little bit technical here with the OGFC. I don't know that was something that anybody sort of knew or thought about. I don't know how really new OGFC is. It's open grade friction course. It's the type of asphalt. You guys could, I'm sure, explain this better than me, but just the water penetrating some of those. It's made to move the water off the roadways, but then you did have some rain, I guess, getting frozen inside of that type of asphalt. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, it's designed to allow the water to penetrate in. It's a porous asphalt to allow the water to get in, shed out. That way, it limits hydroplaning. It eliminates the mist that comes off behind vehicles during rain events. During the freezing rain, water gets down in there, it freezes, and then everything just sticks immediately and starts building up thicker and thicker.
I don't think there's anything we could do to keep water out of it, right?
Correct.
Yeah. It's made to do that. Do you think everything you tried to do pre-trip, did you get to do everything that you wanted to do?
Yes, I mean we got all the routes that we would normally pre-treat. We got them all pre-treated.
I think
actually above and beyond what we'd normally do for this event.
I'm pretty sure I heard Brad say unprecedented, again, talking about unprecedented, but the largest sort of pre-treatment effort that we ever undertook. Yeah, it's just a crazy storm out there.
No doubt. And, you mentioned it a little bit, Matt, but, we've increasingly had more kind of these winter events over the years. So, let's go to Andy. So have we increased the number of plows, materials over the years that we've dedicated to specifically winter events?
I don't know about increased. I really don't know what baseline we would be referring to, but we deployed 8 plows and 8 motor graders in our district, and that was not enough. I mean, District 7 came up and assisted us for a day before they got redeployed to District 2. But we could always use more plows, more motor graders.
Sure.
No question there.
Any other insights on that from the other districts on, have we ramped things up over the years in that regard?
I think we have, because we have seen an increase in the amount of winter precipitation we have statewide. So as a result, we have increased the number of plows in our southern districts, which is District 6 around the Hattiesburg area, Macomb District, down the Jackson Metro, even over in the Delta. So I think as statewide as an agency, we've seen the need to increase the number of winter weather fighting tools, we call it, whether it be brine, salt, and plows around statewide. So yeah, I think as a whole, MDOT has seen the increase in winter weather and tried to do what we could to increase our presence out on the highways.
It is sort of one of those things that, I didn't grow up with it. I can think maybe twice that it actually snowed in my whole life here in Mississippi, but it does seem like this is becoming a little more commonplace. We're starting to see them, the time between these sort of events. And I know, again, something Brad has mentioned, that, the state's response to hurricanes totally changed after Katrina hit. And I think this might be our catalyst to even ramp up all the equipment and supplies, things like that you're talking about. I forgot where I was about to go with that after that. But Andy, I guess for all three of you, actually, you mentioned it a minute ago, but so much of our workforce was impacted as well. You guys have any idea, sort of like percentage of your folks that were without power and water too?
Well, I know in our district, we had about 180 households. Now, we've got some husband and wife employees that work. So we had 180 households just in our district that was without power at one time.
Wow.
And a lot of them without some water as well. So
I'm sure that those were a large part of your forces that would be out. Yeah, man.
they're out fighting this, plus worrying about their family.
Sure.
So.
I mean, godly. Stop and talk about that again for just 1 second. I mean, I can't even imagine. I've got 2 little kids, a 5-year-old, a 3-year-old. My wife is about 6 months pregnant. I'm sure that's maybe 1 or 2 of those situations similar up there, probably not that far off. I can't imagine, trying to, and knowing it's my duty and my responsibility professionally to get out there and help and do that, but having to leave them at home too and go. So I can only imagine. So again, shout out to our employees and folks. Is everybody back to power and water?
Yeah, everyone has power again.
Praises be.
In my district, we had some that were probably 13, 14 days out of power.
Gosh,
You got it.
I heard the same thing. We probably had close to 50% of our workforce
wow.
by no power, a lot with no water. But if you look at where the ice hit our district, it was from about the midpoint north, so that kind of makes sense.
This may not be an answerable question to any of you three. How do you manage that? How are you communicating with those employees and figuring that out?
So a lot of the communication goes to the supervisor, who knows his employees well and knows their needs. And so we communicate daily with our supervisor to see what needs our employees have, Or do they have food? Do they have water at their house? What do they need from us as MDOT family that we can do to support them so they can come to work and feel good about leaving their families behind as they're coming to clear the roads for the drivers of Mississippi.
Yeah, tough spot, no doubt. Again, thank you. A shout out to all of our folks out there that worked so hard in the storm, but are still going through it. I'm sure. Again, we'll get into this a little more, but the storm is over, but the cleanup is still ongoing, right? I mean, you guys are still working out there on that, I'm sure.
So let's drill down, circle back a little bit, and drill down more into the ice. So tell me how much, Brian, you were saying there was up to 12 inches of ice on the roadway.
We had some spots along in the Delta on Highway 61 that now it's hearsay, but a couple of our guys measured some spots that were probably within 8 to 10, 12 inches worth of ice, of solid ice.
That's quite intense. So Matt, how about this? So what makes ice so difficult to remove from the roadway? I mean, you kind of run up against Mother Nature at some point when you're trying to take care of the ice, correct?
Yeah, so ice is a different animal than sleet or snow. Sleet or snow you can plow. Ice is coming down as rain, and this is in this instance, so you can't plow rain. But as the ice is building, it builds very quickly, and even a quarter inch of ice is nearly impossible to plow. We have motor graders that can dig into the ice, but when you start to see, we saw thunder showers of ice, of freezing rain, lightning, and so when you have supercells of rain that are falling with sub-freezing temperatures, when it hits the ground, it immediately freezes. So you may have seen a half of inch of ice on the power lines and on the branches, but on the road we were seeing inches of ice form. And it's really difficult because a plow doesn't have any downforce. A motor grader is just about the only thing you can use to bite into the ice, but you have to shave it off. So think about ice at your house. If you have a block of ice, you can't use a knife to get it. You have to shave it sometimes just to get it down. So that's what we have to do. We had to shave that ice to get it off the road.
So what I'm hearing is under an inch of ice can be extremely resistant. We got around 12 inches of ice in some areas, and we had 15,000 lane miles or something like that was impacted by this sort of condition. So let me tell you, shout out to the MDOT crews because they were really battling something different up there. And then another question I want to ask to kind of clear up a little bit of misconceptions. We got a lot of questions about like Memphis being clear. So it might seem wild, but they were getting different kinds of precipitation than we were. And so we were battling different things than they were, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the northwestern and southwestern part of Tennessee got a little more sleet than the ice. Sort of central part of the state is where the ice really came. Of course, they were fighting it over more of the central part of their state as well. I had conversations with my counterpart with TDOT, and he was basically expressing the same thing, that they were dealing with it in the more central part of their state. So,
and I always say that 1 degree and 1 mile can make a whole lot of difference.
Exactly.
So in the areas where you have sub-freezing temperatures and freezing rain is different than when you have sub-freezing temperatures and sleet or snow. That makes a huge difference in how you can able to effectively treat and clear the roadways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, again, I've never seen anything like that, that level of ice. I mean, we were talking about this before we started rolling here. I don't know that I realized it was even the 12 plus inches there in some spots of the state. You just sort of mentioned this a little bit, but it was made, I heard a point made regarding this at some point in the last couple of weeks, dealing with that ice with the equipment we have. And we're talking about, big snow plows and motor graders. Possibly we're right now showing an image of one of those. We've got one upstairs. If we can capture it and throw it in here, hopefully you can see. I'm pointing. Here's the image of a snow plow. But somebody said it's sort of like, even again with the best of equipment that's out there, it's kind of like using a butter knife to trim down some of that ice, to shave it down. You just can only be so impactful. What makes it stick to the roadways? Why is it so? I'm sure that's maybe a little more scientific than anything I know. Any of you speak to that? Why is it the roadways that it impacts so bad that it stays with?
I don't know how scientific this is, but roadways are rough. surfaces generally, and they're porous, especially the OGFC is porous.
Right.
So one other unique aspect about this storm is just when it began to thaw out a little bit and we started making some headway, it would refreeze at night. And not just freeze, but a deep freeze and a prolonged freeze. I think Thursday was our peak temperature, and that's when we made the most progress in a day. And then by Friday, it was frozen again, and I think it stayed frozen through the weekend. And we were back plowing again Sunday.
Yeah.
So
That is something I failed to mention there. We did not get above freezing really there for about a week. And I think probably the biggest catalyst, like you just mentioned, was getting above that freezing temp and then allowing us to get out there and make headway.
Chairman Maskill, he said there was still, was it like
Oh yeah.
a week or two after they were still experiencing like the ice hadn't completely gone away. So that just kind of goes to show you further how intense this event.
Not just intense, but how much it fell, because the trail around a few weeks later, that means there was that thickness of an ice everywhere.
It's crazy. Let's talk a little bit about recovery. I know you guys are wide open out there, working hard, trying to get everything. How's it looking in each of your districts as far as coming back from it?
So it's going to take time. There's a lot of vegetation, a lot of trees, a lot of everything that fell that we pushed out of the road. So the roads are clear, but we have debris that's on the side of the road, not only from trees that fell on our right of way, but also that fell on private property that may have been pushed to the roadway. So I just ask that the public be patient. We have a plan. We're enacting to begin to start to get this debris picked up. So over the next several months, you'll see crews out that'll start picking the debris up and hauling it. So just pay attention to those.
Yeah, absolutely. You guys started calculating any of the reimbursement numbers, looking at for FEMA type stuff? Any idea? Not yet.
we've got the process started. Sure, we've got some contracts approved to contract with consultants to do the initial assessment.
I fear that number is going to be quite large.
We had 17, all 17 of my counties were somewhat affected. So, wow.
Yeah. I mean, I would venture to say even this, again, since Katrina, probably the largest impact as far as spread across the state. I can't think of anything that's been quite as strong as that. One more thing, just again, bouncing around a bit here, but you mentioned numbers of equipment. I wanted to ask you guys, as far as equipment goes, I mean, we had, again, sort of an unprecedented amount of machinery and supplies out there on the road. Can y'all throw out any of the numbers as far as that goes?
We got about 17 motor graders in our district, along with about 35 plus snowplows.
Okay.
And of course we had all districts except for District 3 came to help. I mean, and they brought the same amount. I'm gonna say one day on Interstate 22, we probably had close to 15 to 20 motor graders working on Interstate 22, which is incredible. It's incredible. Yes. We did solicit some contractor help as well.
Yeah.
And they brought in some, and we're appreciative of that. So
Absolutely.
They help with some motor graders as well. So that's where we were at with equipment wise.
I'll ask this too. I mean, how many blades do you think we went through? Changing those blades every time. I mean,
That's hard to quantify right now, but I'm gonna say many blades.
yeah. Just to get the level, the thickness, the impact of that ice, nothing like I've ever seen before, and pretty crazy to have. I know we had maintenance folks and just different shop employees up there working on anything, changing out blades, getting equipment running. I think we escaped by and large any sort of major accidents or incidents with the public running into anything, right? I don't think maybe one or two small incidents.
Yeah, we had an incident where a truck was coming through, hit a power line, and fell over one of our trucks, narrowly missing one of our employees. But we thankfully the public wasn't out as much as they normally are during an event, and so our guys were able to work and get their job done without having a lot of conflict from people just out sightseeing. But as we all know, people still have to get the job done and get to work. And so, thankfully we didn't have too many incidents out there on the road.
We had one I'm aware of. We had a supervisor that was following one of our spreader trucks, and the spreader truck started to slow down to to Salter Bridge, and he just slid and stopped and ran into the back. So he was lucky. Several slip and falls, of course,
Oh, sure.
on the ice. So
Just a little friendly fire.
no major injuries, thank goodness.
Amen. How about you guys?
We had one incident that involved a motor grader and the public, very minor, no injuries. And then the one injury we reported with our employees was a maintenance, a mechanic changing a plow.
Oh,
And
sure.
that's a big job. That is a big job.
I mean,
he hurt his hand, and then that was all we had.
There was no respite for the weary out there, I'm certain. The reason I asked that about the safety stuff is I know you guys can attest to this. We have spent a lot of time, effort, and money focusing on safety and training folks. You don't want me out there doing anything that you guys are talking about or working on, but I know that MDOT has, again, spent a lot of time and focused on training and making sure folks are prepared. And again, in one of the worst of the worst, throw around generational, unprecedented, for us to have such minor damages, injuries, accidents, incidents with our own forces, I think it lends credence to that training is working and been helpful, and we'll continue that. Do you guys agree with that?
I definitely agree with that.
We talk all the time, on blue sky days about how dangerous the work is that our crews do. But I mean, it's multiplied, when it comes to a winter event like this or a emergency weather event. So really, just shout out to the men and women of MDOT who are on the front lines there. Will, if you have anything else, but what do any of you have any kind of? We can go down the line. Any lessons learned or anything like that after? I know we're still kind of in the midst of this.
Things you tried that weren't sure, but they did work. Anything like that.
I can just say this, that every winter event is different, and it's kind of like football. You have a playbook, and you get to prepare your team for the game, to go to the game. But there's always things that can happen, and because of minor variations how a winter event happens, you're called to play by play, and there's always lessons to be learned. Even though you're prepared, even though you try your best, your team puts all effort they can into it, play their hardest. Sometimes there's things we don't do right. You punt the ball instead of going on 4th down. So there's just things that we always learn, and we learn from our mistakes, we learn from our strengths and weaknesses, and we do better next time. And that's what this event is. It was, like I said, we keep on saying generational, but it's one of those things that we learn. There are some things we could do differently, some things that we did right, and we'll just the next time we have something like this, we hope to be more prepared and be able to perform, better.
Sure. I think it was mentioned at some point. We think, sure, some things probably could have gone better, but we know a lot could have gone a lot worse. So by and large, again, a lot of real successes, victories. I mean, again, some of these challenges we faced, and I guess last thing for me here, again, just shout out to our folks, you guys especially. Y'all were running the show. For those of you who don't know, that our district engineers are the lead man in charge, man or woman in charge out there of the individual districts around the state. And so you guys were on the front lines the whole time out there. And again, with so many under your purview, and you're trying to manage all those employees too. And again, not on a blue sky pretty day. They're dealing with probably some of the worst of their situations that they've ever experienced. If anybody up there is about my age in your district, I've never been through anything like that. So I can only imagine some of your folks and what they were dealing with and going through. And I'm sure that they also share this sentiment, but we appreciate you guys and the leadership that you showed throughout that event.
Definitely. I was going to say, if you're thinking to put this in perspective, the last time something like this happened, like me and Will were like maybe not alive.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy. Yeah, like very, very young. So pretty wild there. And also, someone mentioned the National Weather Service earlier, but we want to shout them out. What was his name? Who was kind of updating us?
Gosh, now
Maybe Michael
Hill, I believe. Yeah.
He was great. He was feeding us some really good information. So, yeah.
Any final thoughts, closing comments from you guys? Anything else you want to share?
I just want to say thank you to my guys, my team that's in the district. I know all three of us feel the same way, that that the teamwork they had together, the teamwork that we all used to get through this event. They worked long hours. They worked knowing their families were home. without power and water, but they came in and they performed their job, performed it well. And I just, want to thank them from the bottom of my heart.
I echo the same for my guys. Just thank them for everything they've done, and also the leadership down here in Jackson, and the support, the encouragement, the prayers, for the families that were affected.
No doubt.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, the maintenance guys out there on the motor graders and plows, and they're the star of the show, obviously. But they had a lot of support. We had our mechanics on the front lines up there with them. Our warehouse was open the whole time we were working. The EOC staff, safety officers, and then, of course, all the people here in Jackson that supported us and made sure we had what we needed. Public affairs did an outstanding job, I think, of covering everything that we did. So want to recognize all those folks.
So you hear that? Shout out. Thank you now.
There we go. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for coming in and recapping Winter Storm Fern. Like we like to say, we don't take snow days at MDOT, we don't take ice days. Crazy times. Thank you again. We will go ahead and wrap things up there. Thank you to our listeners, our viewers, for tuning into the Extra Mile podcast. You can watch and listen to episodes by visiting gomdot.com/the extra mile. You can follow us on social media at Mississippi DOT is the handle. We want to thank Drew Hall, Roy Atkins, and Billy Bob Sequel. Big episode. 3 guys behind the scenes. They do a tremendous job for us. Remember to drive smart out there on Mississippi highways.